Hi everyone, today I'd like to give my thoughts on the early 2020 MacBook Air. The model I picked up is silver with 500GB of PCIe storage, 16GB of RAM, and a 1.1 GHz quad-core Intel Core i5 1030 and G7 CPU with integrated Iris Plus graphics. Let's take a quick tour of the device. So over on the front we have the super reflective Apple logo and an indent to lift up the display. On the back and bottom, we don't have much of anything except for a color matching hinge that is not present on the 2012 to 2017 MacBook Airs, and device information and rubber feet. On the left, we have our two Thunderbolt 3 connectors, and on our right, we have our lone headphone jack. When I first booted up the notebook, I immediately noticed the quality of the Retina display. It's decently bright, sharp, and has great colors and contrast. This is not the best screen I've ever seen, but it's nonetheless gorgeous. Perhaps a solid 7 out of 10 just to give quantitative ratings. Of course, we're looking at a 2560 by 1600, 16 by 10 aspect ratio, 227 pixels per inch Retina display with IPS display technology and True Tone. So it's not very cutting edge in terms of other offerings from different manufacturers, but it works very well. Now we'll move on to the keyboard, trackpad, and speakers. Just to give y'all some perspective, I have used a Windows PC about every day since I was a 5-year-old, and my personal PC has a mechanical keyboard and wireless mouse. The keyboard on the MacBook Air is nothing to write home about, but it feels like most low-profile keyboards I've used. However, if we compare it to the butterfly switch keyboards that Apple shoved down our throats from 2015 to 2019, the scissor switch keyboard is a great leap in the right direction. The butterfly switch felt like I was typing in glass, as there wasn't much keyboard travel and it didn't have much of a satisfying press. On this laptop's keyboard, there's noticeable key travel, a satisfying press sound, and they won't break as easily. To be fair, I've only tried the butterfly switch Macs a few times in stores like Costco and the Apple Store, so I can't provide my feedback like that. Also, the backlight gets so bright in its max setting, and the Touch ID sensor on the top right is such a convenience when I wake up the laptop, and the thing doubles as a power button if you don't know. Overall, I'm glad Apple finally came to their senses and implemented this tried and true keyboard onto their new laptops. The touchpad on the MacBook Air is certainly something. It's large, like the width of my medium-sized hand. I can easily move the cursor around the whole desktop without any hassle. Whenever I type, the palm rejection seems to be working well. Additionally, I've grown up used to using a 2-button trackpad, and the Force Touch trackpad on this Mac didn't take me long to get used to. I love how I can tap and click anywhere on the trackpad instead of having to put my thumb or another finger on the button to click. Speaking of the Force Touch, to be honest, it seems like it's between a gimmick and an actually useful feature. Sometimes I use it to peek at websites on Safari and preview files on Finder. As a lifetime Windows user, Force Touch would never replace a good old right click, but it's a nice feature to have on Mac regardless. Overall, Apple's trackpad is a very functional and great feeling trackpad, despite its large size. The speakers on the MacBook Air are, what's a good word? Amazing for laptop speakers. These things don't sound like tin cans, they sound like something I could use to jam with my friends. They get very loud and have good bass and richness in the sound.
This love that you never started, you once destroyed. A broken heart that was already shattered. Holding on to what we have and take us to the edge and back. Holding on to what we have and take us to the edge and back.
When I play music at the max volume, the sound doesn't seem to distort or lose quality really, even in songs with a lot of percussion. Overall, Apple really hit the mark on the audio in their notebooks. The speed of the MacBook Air is nothing to write home about at all. It's universally known in the PC building world that Macs are not at all great in terms of raw price to performance. I mean, the damn CPU has a base clock of 1.1 GHz and a significantly higher boost clock. However, Apple does get an upper hand on Windows PC competitors in terms of optimizations software-wise. The feel of stock applications like Safari, iMovie, etc. make up for the lack of raw computational power in these machines. And everything opens very quickly with the NVMe SSD. Safari seems to take a much shorter time to load websites compared to Google Chrome and maybe even use less energy. In my opinion, macOS is a great notebook OS because of its feel and optimizations, but the hardware isn't great by any standards. The battery life for the MacBook Air has been great so far. I use this laptop here and there throughout the day for light to moderate tasks like word processing, web browsing, messaging and emails, coding, light games, and listening to music or watching YouTube. To put some perspective, I use an app called Turbo Boost Switcher to help extend the battery life of my laptop by disabling Intel's Turbo Boost feature whenever I'm perhaps doing these light tasks. If I'm rendering video, playing a game, or anything like that, I'd enable Turbo again. I haven't really stress tested or measured how long of battery life I've been getting, but it's been enough to get me through 2 days without charging based on my aforementioned workload. In terms of built-in connectivity, as a Windows user, I hate it. It seems that Apple has been pushing wireless everything, and the only physical connections come from the Thunderbolt 3/USB-C ports. Apple could have had the chance to put an SD card reader right next to the headphone jack to save people from having to buy another dongle. And only 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports? Lame. I can only have one other thing connected to the laptop when I'm charging the thing. The idea of carrying around dongles stinks, but to Apple's credit, the USB-C port has matured some more since its debut in Apple devices like the 2015 12-inch MacBook, and the connection is plenty fast for anything you can throw at it. I know it's been about 4 years since the removal of the MagSafe connector, but it's something that I still adore on older Macs that nothing else in the laptop market has. I'm pretty sure Everything Apple Pro made a video stress testing the Thunderbolt 3 connector back in 2016. In terms of wireless connectivities, the Wi-Fi is nothing to write home about. We're looking at pretty run-of-the-mill 802.11 AC Wi-Fi, which isn't even the latest standard. Of course would be the Wi-Fi 6, 802.11ax. But I think it'll be enough for 90% of users. However, on Bluetooth, we do have the latest spec, that being Bluetooth 5.0. I don't have many Bluetooth devices other than AirPods, but range is great and it doesn't suck up much power at all. Temperature and acoustics of the device are a mixed bag. Whenever I run my typical workload, the CPU hovers around the temperature of mid-50s in Celsius. This feels pretty warm to my lap, but it's not scalding, and I don't even use the Mac on my lap that often anyway. Of course, the acoustics of the device are almost non-existent, typical Apple stuff, forcing the fan to kick in well when the CPU needs it in a stock config. The fan isn't even that loud. I've heard this Mac is a bit of an improvement in comparison to previous Apple laptops, but the cooling is really not anything to write home about. Typical Apple prioritizing silence, then temperature. One of the things that lured me into the Mac side was the Apple ecosystem. I'm already deep in it, with my iPhone and decent-sized iTunes library. Continuity and cloud features work very well between my old iPhone SE and this laptop, like Safari tabs, iCloud Sync, Apple apps, calls and texts, etc. The FaceTime camera is pretty mediocre. It's still Apple's aging 720p camera and produces grainy photos and video. I mean, it's better than having nothing at all, but come on Apple, you've had years to put a great quality camera. Maybe y'all could have taken a camera from an iPhone and put it there. However, the built-in microphone is actually great. With clear sound, reproduces my voice nicely, and it doesn't have much background noise, if at all. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 3. Let's see if this MacBook Air built-in microphone is great, or if it's crap. End of test. And finally, the build quality of the laptop is up to par with any Apple product. I'm probably unaware of some sort of physical flaw in the device. Hopefully Louis Rossmann or someone else educates me about those flaws, but the aluminum body feels great to carry around. The laptop looks like a work of art and minimalism, but in my opinion, the design doesn't seem to intrude on my productivity. In all, the early 2020 MacBook Air is a winner of a laptop for students, average users, and business users. It has good speed and fluidity, great battery life, amazing audio, and a wonderful keyboard and trackpad for your work. The bad FaceTime camera, lack of physical ports in the machine, and abysmal raw CPU performance without turboing are major drawbacks for this laptop, especially compared to competitors like the HP Spectre X360 and the LG Gram. For a premium notebook laptop, the early 2020 MacBook Air does most of what it does well. And with a lower price tag than previous MacBook Airs, Apple's light and most popular notebook is definitely coming back to its roots. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you'd like to see more, please like, comment, and subscribe. Take care, everyone.